Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
So you guys have this new EP out, which I've been enjoying listening to these tracks alive, and a brand new music video. How did this come about?
You know, it's funny because bands, you know, we should release things like to be, you know, current or relevant or whatever. And we have, and in the past we've released things and our fan base loves it and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But we were working on this one song and it was for multiple reasons. It was a tribute to a friend of Justin's, but also because Alan Parsons invited us to his studio, which is in our town. Mm-hmm. And he has this thing he does where he brings people who are engineers and producers into his studio and they get to work on a song. And so we said, okay, this is the song, the one that's, you know, we're working on. And we went to the studio and that song sounds great. It's King of the Mountain. But then we kind of were kicking around, what else would we put on an EP or a you know, a release? And Alive just kept coming back to all of us like, I think this might be the song. You know, I love the other ones, but I think this might be the song. And so our label, Pavement, they got behind the whole idea of an EP and came up with a creative packaging thing for it. And when they heard this, of the three things we gave them, they were like, just like that. So like, that song, are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, so, and you know, as a band, you either always think you wrote that song or you never think you wrote that song. You know what I mean?
It's like the extremes. Well, and I think what's fun there on the EP also is to where you've got that great acoustic track on there also that kind of splits the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we recorded the Juniper Road record at Eric Burden's house out in Joshua Tree.
Wow.
Like, yeah, what I still can't comprehend that.
Yeah, you know, and you say that, you know, it's like, I mean, it's just, wow, George, I don't know what else to say about that.
No, you can't say that like you're just shaking salt, right? That's like, no. And so there were these moments where we just went out, you know, with our acoustic guitars out in the desert on his patio or porch or whatever it was, and just kind of, you know, played through songs. And you can kind of hear that in that song. You know, right. You can hear that, you know, we were just a bunch of guys around a campfire in Joshua Tree, you know, playing a song.
It sounds so organic, but I mean, all three of the tracks are great. I think Alive definitely fits easily into the past Dishwalla catalog.
Oh, for sure.
But, you know, I mean, it's like as soon as you hear the opening of it, it's like going, oh, yeah, this is Dishwalla.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I've got to ask you about this, though. I mean, I know you guys are out on tour and you've got like a special, you know, bundle and everything going with this package. The music video seems like you guys had a pretty good time with that as well.
Well, the music video, you know, I started doing videos in the 90s. Right. And so there was as much of a budget for the music video as there are for some indie films.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And this was all done on iPhones.
Really? It does not look like it.
Yeah, it was all we bought other things or rented other things for the day. We all had, we didn't all have, but we had a couple of iPros or GoPros with all their extra things that you could get for them. Yeah. It looked corny and it looked kind of like, oh, I have a GoPro and here's the things it can do. And the iPhones on the selfie sticks and just people just walking around with them in their hands. That's the whole video.
Wow. And the video looks incredible. And obviously, you know, with Dishwalla, you know, you guys are so well known, you know, for Counting Blue Cars, you know, so many awards and everything. And also, you know, with as a live band coming out for the 90s, you guys are just known for that. How did you end up on a Carpenters tribute album?
It was, you know, it was
like that transition.
Yeah, that was a smooth one. The label, I think our A&R guy mentioned it was happening.
Yeah.
And one of the members of the band was like, oh man, I'd so love to be on that. And I think he was surprised that there was like an interest on our end. Right. And I think, you know, most most songwriters are like aware of the Carpenters and Burt Bacharach, all that stuff. So we showed interest, and then they came back and said, okay, we'll have you do a song. But we were nobodies. Everybody else on that, if you look at that, If I Were a Carpenter, it's like the biggest, coolest bands in that whole era.
I remember when it came out. That's why I had to kid you about it some, because I mean, when it came out, it was like, oh my gosh. It's like every band that's anybody is on that.
Yeah. And I think what happened was ours was the only one that might have been like radio friendly for the moment. All the rest of them were like super rad art pieces, like Shonen Knife and Sonic Youth, and all their versions were like, I could listen to them forever. They weren't 90s. They were just like, like I said, art pieces, and ours was more like, oh, here's a 90s version of a Carpenter song. The funny thing was that we landed in Philadelphia, and it was on the radio, and it had this kind of regional success, right? Wow. And then the press came out, and they were like, who is this super group that showed up on this tribute album? And they were trying to figure out like what members of what bands we were. And this is before the internet, where you could just Google like who played everything. Right. And it was kind of a funny thing, because we weren't a super group. We hadn't even made our first album yet. Wow. We got on the Jon Stewart show with that song.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was.
But all of that is sort of though all led into what you guys became then. As such a successful live band and with all your hits and everything else. But it's funny that came first before all the success. Yeah,
total accident.
Well, and I got to ask you this too, George, because I know that, with your career and everything, you still, you're so well known for being a drum teacher. And so when you're not on tour and not in the studio, and I know you do a lot of side projects, are you still involved with that as well?
Yeah, I'm presently not at my camp that I run to do this interview.
Wow, because I was going to ask about the camp, because having read a number of other interviews and everything on you and knowing your work, and I think it's incredible how you share with young musicians and enjoy that so much with your camp and all. But I just wanted to know if you're still continuing that as Dishwalla's ramping back up.
Yeah, I don't, as long as the families will tolerate my inconsistent, calendar. It's something that I kind of had a moment where I wasn't playing that much, and I moved into teaching, and I had this moment where I was like, this is as fulfilling, if maybe not even more. And now I have, I've been doing so long, I have these adult people out there touring and recording and like legit, like, playing Summerfest to 20,000 people, you know what I mean? So
that has to feel good.
Oh, it really does. It really does. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, with your background and everything and being such an incredible percussionist and drummer, to be able to share that, I always found when I had the time to teach guitar, it's like I learned a lot through the teaching process myself, and it made me better also. Oh,
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. All of my, I mentioned the touring and advanced people. They, at a certain point, they brought me things and said, can you show me this? I was like, sure. And then I'd have to learn it before their next lesson.
Oh my gosh. But that's great though, right?
As a teacher, it makes you a better player, because you have to learn all those things,
I've read conflicting things on, how you guys came up with the name Dishwalla. And I would like to hear it from you as the source. Where did this name come from?
So we had a really horrible name. Well, not the Dishwalla is not a horrible name, but we had a more horrible name before this. And
I've read that name. Yes.
It was Life Talking.
Right. And which sounds very 80s.
It's very 80s. And for me, it was like Pat Metheny, Still Life Talking.
Right.
Like that seemed to me like we're just ripping off that. And none of us were, he's awesome, but none of us were like Pat Metheny fans, right? Yeah. And enough to steal a name for a band. And so it was the era of one word bands, right? Bush, Nirvana, Plush, Lush, whatever it was. And so we're like, oh, let's come up with a one word band name. And our one of our guys picked up a saucer, because we were at a coffee house, and he goes, what about dish? And then we all immediately went to all the meanings of dish. Like it could be a hot girl from the 40s, or it could be like, dissing somebody, or like, whatever dish can be. So like, yeah, that's enough. We got enough to make that a thing. And so we played regionally up and down the West Coast, and had enough of a following and a logo and stuff that we were Dish, and that's how people knew us. And then some band in North Carolina had a record deal, released a record under the name Dish. We got a cease and desist, and we were like, oh man, we got to come up with a new band name. And then I'm pretty sure it was the same guy who was reading Wired magazine about satellite cable pirates in India. And in India, when there's a new word, they don't make up a new word. Like, so if we call it a dish, they call it a dish. Right. But in India, a walla is a smith. It's anybody who does anything. It's one who works, right?
Okay.
So a dishwalla is a satellite cable guy in India.
How interesting.
Yeah, that took a long time to just say it's a satellite cable guy in India. But anyway.
But I love how it got to there, because I didn't know the Dish part. I didn't know you guys were Dish before. I knew the original name. But I mean, it's so interesting that, because it's such a recognizable name, yes. and you guys, all over the radio with your songs. And so I think it's kind of cool how you guys came up with that as a band, though.
Yeah.
And obviously you're back on tour. You've got the new EP out. You got the new video out. Are there going to be any more new videos or anything else rolling out, George?
It seems like everything's kind of changed to where you would release a record that had 12 to 15 songs on it, and you would say, these are the 3 singles and these are the videos and blah, blah, blah. And now it seems more like we have these 3 songs done. We got this one cool video.
Yeah.
And then we tour on that for a little bit. It's more of probably like release things like we just did.
Yeah.
And then compile it at the end of the year, or the end of whatever it is,
Well, there are 3 great songs. As you and I know, back in the day when albums used to come out, it's like you were hoping for 3 good songs on an album. And then some of the other stuff was like, But like with this, you got all meat and no potatoes.
And that's what I think, like, I wish that we had been the ones to think about this in the front end, but on the back end, when you release Juniper Road, right? Mm-hmm. Every one of those songs, if you spent time with it, you'd be like, oh, this is my favorite song on this record. Right. But you get to song 4, and now you feel like a different flavor. So you switch to your next streaming thing, or you put your next whatever in. And that's the thing with it, with these smaller releases.
Yeah.
You like with a full release. I don't even know. I was going to say album, but with a full release, you don't get past song 4 or 5.
Right.
So this is a way for everyone to hear. This is the snapshot of what we're doing right now. We'll send you the next snapshot.
Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, with the new EP out, you got the special bundles, you got the tour going on. Where is the best place for them to go for all things Dishwalla?
Any streaming service, our site, Pavement Entertainment. They all have you can download from any of those places, but then they also have our site has the bundle with the shirt and and the CD, which is funny that's a thing again. But
everything's coming back. It's like the vinyl's all back. It's like a lot of the artists come on the show and go, "Yeah, our vinyl records are on back order." I'm like, awesome.
Right.
Well, I want to make sure also, George, for our viewers, a number of percussionists and drummers, if they should want to seek lessons from you, where would their best place be to go?
Well, they can go to my own website, georgependergast.com, or my school is rockshopacademy.com, or any Facebook, George Pendergast or Rock Shop Academy.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're still doing that. What a great way to give back of your musical knowledge in between touring and hanging out at cool people's studios and doing acoustics. You got a fun life.
Right.
It's not bad, George.
I don't want to work. I just want to bang my drum.
George Pendergast of Dishwalla, thank you so much for coming on the show. Have a great tour. Be sure and check out their EP, Alive, which is out now. Brand new video. They got a bundle. And if you want to learn some more cool percussion and drums, check out George on the internet. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.